All right, everybody, welcome. This is tutorial 3. We already covered in the first tutorial. We covered the creation of the beat, how to create real funky rhythmic percussion simply from one shot, added into a drum machine and sequencing it out on your own. We covered that. We covered the intro. Building it all the way up to the breakdown. We covered how to make some of the sounds that I did, some of the melody. We learned how to make an offbeat bass. So we did quite a bit already in the first and second tutorial. In this one, we're going to be going over the breakdown, some of the build up to the drop. We're going to be covering the drop. The ins and outs of Complextro, the bass transitions that makes the Complextro sound as good as it does, power notes, and we're going to be covering what I call before is the trifecta. This is something I call personally myself. It's the point of the song where all the sounds come together as one for that one big epic moment of the song. We're going to cover that, and then we're going to cover the outro of the song. So we got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and get to it. Let's see where I left you guys last time. I'm gonna go ahead and just play what I got and just show you guys what it's turned into since last time you heard it. Here we go. since last time I saw you guys, I think the only thing I added beat-wise that I didn't show you was a tambourine to it, and on that's actually the only drum element, percussion element that I didn't actually make from scratch. And particularly, I didn't even aim to do that because, obviously a tambourine is more of like a very live in the moment type thing, and that's why it sounds the way that it does. It sounds fucking amazing. And to get that swing and all that, I wanted to actually use a loop on that. So like I told you before, I use Splice on a lot of different things. I just went to Splice, typed in tambourine loop, and a whole bunch popped up. I found a good one that felt like it would match my song really good, and just dragged it in. And after that, I didn't use the whole loop as it was. I found the segment, just a nice repetitive segment that went well because the whole loop itself was kind of clashing with some of my other percussion lines that I have going on. It was just a little too busy. So I just took a small little cut that did fit well with it, and I just simply looped it. So nothing too crazy there, but you can hear how it really popped really well in the beat, and how important it is to actually use tambourines on your drums, because after you've added your hi-hats, some of your other funky percussion and whatnot, the tambourine is really just going to set it off well. But you don't want to use your tambourine early on in the beat. You can see here how I waited till like the intro was halfway through the intro to come in with it, because as soon as you thought you've already heard all the percussion, as soon as the song's getting going and now you're really paying attention to the sounds, all of a sudden the tambourine comes in and it's like, ooh, okay, I didn't expect that, and it adds a little bit more rhythm to it, and it just sounds good. So I'll give you an idea of just how it sounds when it pops in. So you can hear the hi-hats kind of scatting doing this thing. You hear the other percussion sounds kind of coming through. There you go. The tambourine just like sets it off so fucking good. So I kind of look at the tambourine as like the cherry on top when it comes to percussion, but I won't add the tambourine line until I've created all the percussion, because I don't want the tambourine to get in the way of me getting ideas for the flow of my other percussion. So I always keep that for the cherry on top. And plus that doesn't come in until halfway through your intro anyways. So you want to save that. And also too, you'll notice here how I transitioned my hi-hats. I started out with 1/8 hats and transitioned to 1/16 right here. So that was perfect for the intro, kind of slow coming in. As soon as it got going, I transitioned to the 1/16 hi-hats, and then it goes to the tambourine. So it's a nice progression build-up of percussion. And then if you look here at the end of the song, you'll notice on my breakdown, I did the same thing. So as soon as the song is kind of like filtering out, you'll notice when it gets down to just the basic beat again, which would be the mixing point on another song, you want it to go back to the 1/8. So you get that fill again. So you get that, listen. Just like perfect little breakdown right there. But you don't have to do it. You can still keep some things in, but that for the most part, you want to kind of follow what you did in the beginning and bring it to the end there as well. See what I added last time, since last time I saw you guys. See, I think we finished off talking about these pads right here that I had going. So one thing I didn't show you that I did, if you notice here, you notice they're side chain, they're pulsing. I didn't have that added last time I was talking to you guys. And there's lots of plugins that you can get they'll add automatic sidechain and give you that pulse feeling that you want. I try to stay away from those because I already use a lot of VSTs as it is. So using a plugin to add that effect means I'm going to have to add that plugin to a lot of other tracks as well. Before you know it, I'm like killing my CPU. So I would rather just do that from scratch. And to show you how I done it from scratch, let's see. I create a ghost kick, if you look up here. And in this channel, unfreeze this. And this is actually a muted track. This is no sound. I'm not using it for anything but to give me a signal to help me get that pulse feeling on a 4/4. So if you look here, I simply just got a kick, and you can't even hear it because I got it muted. See, and I simply just got a kick hitting on a 4/4. Boom, 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 boom. And we're simply just using that not for the sound but for the signal. And after that, let me go ahead and just undo that freeze because I don't want to ruin anything. Keep everything as is. And then, let's see, let's go back up to, right here on our pad. Let's unfreeze this. And then you'll notice here, added the compressor. I talked about this before. I used the R compressor, Renaissance compressor, and I got it sidechained to the ghost kick. So now the sound is, every time that kick hits, is going to dip the sound. And I gave it a real extreme dip. So you'll see here on the threshold, I got it down to a 29.5, and I got the ratio way down to a 19.41. The attack's really fast, and the release is about halfway. So with this, you'll see, as I play it, you get a visualization of how much it's actually dipping and how fast or how slow it's coming back up. And over the years, I've become more of a visual mixer, and it's just everything is becoming more visual nowadays, and I love that. It's actually made me a lot better. But yeah, that's how you would get that pumping effect manually without having to use a VST to do it for you and save up some of your CPU. And then also too, something else that I actually just started doing, I've always sidechained my sounds to the kick, but I've never sidechained my sounds to the snare. And in this particular track, it fucking came out amazing. I love it, and I'm definitely going to start doing this from now on. But from what I understand, sidechaining your sounds to the snare is something that's more popular for something that has real heavy snares, like dubstep snares and stuff like that. And in this particular song, it's not a huge snare like a dubstep snare, but it definitely falls in the category of a dubstep snare. It's really thuddy. It's got a lot of range to it. So with that being said, I didn't want any of my other sounds to make my snare kind of dip down into the mix and actually like take away from the snare, because you'll notice sometimes when you have a song that's kind of busy, when it starts getting full, especially in the biggest moment of the song, you'll notice if you listen real close that your snare is kind of going to start fading into the mix a little bit. And the way to prevent that is by doing the same exact thing, but instead of sidechaining it to a ghost track, or what I said, you're simply just going to sidechain it to your snare track, your main snare track. But the important thing to know that when doing that is you want to keep it minimal. You don't see on this one, you notice my ratio isn't as low as it was on the other one that I showed you, because I don't want that extreme of a dip every time the snare hits, because that would just come across sounding really, really wonky and just kind of fake, generic sounding. So you got to make sure the key is that you have a really fast attack and a fast release. So you'll notice my release is just up just a little bit, and when it hits, you'll see every time it dips, that's when the snare is hitting. And it's a very, very minimal effect. It's just something that I wanted to create a little bit more space for my snare, and I do the same thing for my kicks. Actually, on this one, it looks like I don't even have it. Actually, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about sidechaining this to the actual kick itself, because with actually pulsing, it sounds good. And that's something that you got to remember too, is that things don't always have to be so textbook all the time. If it sounds good, it fucking sounds good, and run it. But don't get so stuck on the whole, this is how it's supposed to be done, so you got to do it like this every time, even when you're not even really getting that big of a difference of a sound. Don't get caught up on that stuff. This sounds good, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I do have all my sounds sidechained to the kick itself, unless it's sidechained to the ghost kick and the snare. And then we'll also go over, I'll show you on the Compressor segment, I'm going to show you how I actually have my sounds, instead of sidechaining my sounds to the kick on the Compressor segment, I sidechain most of my Compressor sounds on the drop to the ghost kick, because on the Compressor segment, let's go to it. Computer's acting weird. My computer's dying. So you'll notice it on this segment. There's a lot of sounds that are going in and out of each other. It's like this sound, that sound, this sound's kind of doing something different. So everything kind of has to have a lot of movement to it in order to like not go stale and for it to sound kind of progressive and keep moving forward. So me sidechaining it to the ghost kick set on a 4/4 is helping with that pumping feeling and giving more rhythm. So along with the modulated sounds and then having that pumping effect on a time like that, it's helping give the effect of the Compressor feeling a lot more, instead of sidechaining my sounds to the kick. So I only did that on those particular sounds that I wasn't aiming for wah 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 just on the Compressor segment. So that's why I did that. So that's a really cool trick there. But let's go to where we left off. So we were on breakdown. All right, so on this part right here, I did a little clear out spot, and what I did, well, first let me show you up here. So right here, I went to Splice and found some really cool impact sounds. Just went through a whole bunch of them and found some. I looked through effects and I looked through impacts, and I found ones that just sounded really good with the song, and made sure that they keyed up with my song as well. And the ones that didn't, I threw a spectrum analyzer on it here. We already went over that in the first tutorial. I showed you how to key up your samples and tune everything the right way. So I simply just put a spectrum analyzer on each one, make sure that it was in key with my song, all the impacts were. So after that, I just pretty much layered all the ones that went together, and then certain ones I reversed. And in order to do that, it's super easy. All you got to do is just click on it and hit R, and it reverses. So that's really easy there. And then also too, you can grab the end of your clips. See how I kind of faded out there? You can grab the end of your clips and you can create fades. So if you ever have a sample that's kind of, you can hear the cut, a little, you don't want that, obviously. You just kind of fade out the end and do an automatic fade on that. So that's how I did that. And I added some delay, put it on ping pong, and set it on the 4 there, and adjusted the feedback on how much I wanted it to repeat itself, and the wet, because I didn't want it too wet and oversaturated, because honestly that's going to bring up the volume on it. It's going to sound messy. So pretty much just boom, 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 So that helped with the whole illusion there. But the real key to making this transition sound good was reversing the vocal. Creating I'm just going to let you listen to it here. So, and how I did that, and I've actually noticed a lot of people will do this this vocal sweep type thing, and sometimes I notice in other people's songs it kind of sounds a little weird, and it sounds stretched, and it's kind of bending through, and that actually doesn't sound too good. So actually, what I'm about to show you is a really good way on to do that without getting that wonky kind of sound with a vocal that's kind of fading in like that. So really, all you're doing is just taking the very first cut of the vocal right where it comes in. So where she's saying love. So I literally just cut out the l. Took that, and you can see it right here. I left it there, and then I put reverb on it. Gave it a real huge tail. So let's listen to it here. So what you want to listen to when it hits, you want to listen to how long it takes to dip out, because that the distance and time that it takes to dip out is going to be the time that you need for it to start coming back in to you. So that's really important. You don't want it to be too huge and drastic of a tail, because you're not going to get that effect of it creeping in when you reverse it. So right here, we talked about Endless Smile in the last one. I actually ended up utilizing it. There's right here. That's what's giving me that nice, really big reverb tail on there for that. So after, actually, let's go ahead and I'll show you what I did. So if you just create, Vox here 2 is the name of it. So if we create a new audio track, and then we change, let's go ahead and hit Control, and now we got both of those at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and engage that on record, and then external in, let's do Vox here 2. Let's go scroll down and find Vox here 2. It's funny how I label my stuff so I can find it. Vox here 2. All right, so now that that's on Vox here 2, we're going to switch it to in, right? And now we're going to hit record. So see, it recorded it in right there. So after you got that, I'm going to go ahead and just undo this, switch this back to off. All right, so now you can see that we got this. All right, and then after you got that, like I told you before, you're simply just going to click on it and hit R. Now it's reversed it, right? And you want to drag this back over. And another important thing is it's going to catch a lot of the initial attack of the beginning of the sound, and you want to cut some of that out. It's not going to be part of the reverse illusion. So we're going to actually right there is like the high point. So we're just going to drag that to about right there. It looks like it's where it starts going back down from its high point. And then we're going to line it up perfectly with the beginning right there. I'm not going to worry too much about perfection right now because I already got that done, but I just want to show you guys how you would do it. All right, and then I created a manual gated effect on that, and like literally all I did, set it 132 right here, and then you simply just highlight each segment and hit 0. 0. So I just did that all the way down until you're pleased with how it sounds, and then there you go. There's your reverse gated vocal effect. And you didn't have to do any weird stretching or anything like that and alter your audio and give you distorted sound or anything like that. That's like the cleanest way to do it and get a really good result. So that's that there. Let's go ahead and undo, mute this, and then delete that. All right, so we got all right, so on the vocals, and I want to thank DJ KJ for sending me these awesome vocals and allowing me to do this remix from the stuff that he sent me, and also something else that I added since the last tutorial that I did was Siren, and the original that KJ made for the song Love, Love, Love. He had a really cool siren that he drops to in his version of the song, and I really love the siren a lot. So I ended up adding that siren to the intro part of the song. And so the only thing I used out of it was the siren and the vocals, and everything else I made and all that. But on the siren, I actually had to change the pitch on it. I'm pretty sure, I can't remember what key I went to on it. On that one, but I did the same effect. I put Spectrum on there, saw where it was showing on there key wise, and essentially I put transpose on it. But I've already exported it since then, so the transpose isn't showing on there. I've already exported it out and turned it into a new file. So you'll notice here when I click on it, it's showing the transpose is at 0. That's why. It's because I've already created a new sample out of the one that he sent to me. So on that one, after keying it up with my song, I did the same thing that I just showed you on the vocals. I did the same gated effect. So that came out pretty cool. So I simply just put it on the 132 and just started muting, highlighting and muting, hitting 0, and getting that gated effect on there, and just paying attention to make sure there's no clips or anything, that I didn't have to do any fades on each little cut. So this came out actually pretty cool. So that's the only other thing that I added to the intro that we didn't go over in the second tutorial. So that pretty much covers the whole intro. The beginning of the breakdown. The vocals, right here. The vocals are already processed by KJ. KJ's fucking awesome when it comes to doing vocals. All of his shit is always top and sounds really fucking good, and you don't have to do much to his vocal stuff. Literally all I did was send my vocals to my vocal bus. And on the vocal bus, it's real basic. I simply just have the glue and some minimal EQing going on there to make it pop. And I'm going to pop this up here so you can actually see the settings that I have on the vocal bus compressor, so you can copy those to help you get the same effect. Everything comes across really fucking good. So on the vocals, all I did was, let's see. Oh, actually, this is the wrong track. It's this one right here. On this one here, there was one point where I had to use an auto filter. Yeah, right here. Ableton's auto filter. You'll notice when I hit my automation up here, I got it dipped a little bit. And I did that because I felt like right when the vocals were coming in, well, first I had to kind of work them in to introduce them. And that's why you notice right here in the beginning, I got this going on. Let's see. Take me higher, take me higher, take me higher, take me higher. That's really important because if you don't introduce the vocals and all of a sudden you just come in out of nowhere with the vocals, especially when they're really loud and pristine sounding, especially on a breakdown when everything's kind of at a low point, ready to start building back up, it's just kind of be like, oh, where'd that come from out of nowhere? It's going to be really abrupt and alarming and it's not going to sound good. So if you notice right here, I used the auto filter and simply on the frequency, I just automated that. That's all I did. And when you automate, really all you got to do, you can hit the A button, it opens up your automation, or you can manually hit this button right here. And when you do that, all you got to do is move any knob, and as soon as you move it, you'll look right here on your insert, and it'll open up a little tab right there. It responds to the button that you touched, and it'll open up an automation, the opportunity for you to automate that knob. So that one's frequency. So literally I just brought the frequency down right here and started working it up. You see how it's moving right here? Take me higher, take me higher, take me higher. And then I do the same thing when the vocals come in so it isn't so abrupt. Take me higher. Love, love, love that I'm dreaming about. I got this love, love, love. Got me singing out loud. You come and take me higher. There's no denying you the one. I got this. And it works up to its high point and starts to sound really fucking pristine and nice and loud. I got this love, love, love. Got me singing out loud. You come and take. All right, and then on the vocals, it was kind of a repetitive vocal piece. There wasn't a whole lot of content there. It was just more of a hook. So I had to find a clever way to be able to take these small amount of vocals and span them out over a whole song and not sound too repetitive. And I feel like I did a really good job at that. So I took right here on this roll, you notice here, I took one of the end parts and simply just repeated it in certain spots and then filtered it up for the intro. And then you'll notice here on the build up for the drop. I got this love, yeah. So I just simply created another layer and just ran that along with it right on top of it and created just another layer and just added more to the intensity of it and came across really fucking good. And then I simply started building it. And one thing you got to do once you start building it like that, you might have to grab your vocal and start sliding it a little bit more to the left, the faster it starts building up, especially on these cuts. I've noticed in the past, anytime I've done this, in these moments, you kind of got to grab it and put your timing on, set it to like off so it has like no slip at all. And you can pretty much move it anywhere you want on the grid without it snapping to a certain point. And then you kind of move the vocals perfectly and fine right there on it so you can get that love, love, so you can get it really, really fast so that it doesn't fall off out of time. And then all your other chunks do the same exact thing. So you build it up to the same timing as that. So that's how you would do your vocal build up to it. But the important thing is that you want it to match your drums. So your drum build up. So the snare build ups here. I start off, we've already went over fill snares before in the first tutorial. And on this, we're going to start off with a slow one. And then we're going to go to a medium. And then we're going to go to our fast. So this one was the most important, and I had to make sure that the vocals match that, so it doesn't sound wonky and one thing's doing one thing and something else is happening in another spot. So it's important that matches, so the build up to the drop sounds right and accurate. What else did I do? All right, right here. So you'll notice I made a melody that matches the vocals. And I do the same thing here with a melody. So the vocals are take me higher, take me higher. So it's kind of doing a slow build up there. And you'll notice here on the melody, I'm doing the same thing, build it up with the vocals. Take me, take me, take me, take me. So that matches there with that. And to show you, I'll click on this just so you can see the key to all of it. And this is something else, good learning point for you right here too. So in the second tutorial, I showed you how the pluck melody that was doing its thing, and that one was actually up in this key, going up to the next octave, and I think it was going some shit like that. Well, if you notice here on this melody, it's not doing the same thing. You'll notice it's in B. It looks like this key is one of the keys that was used in the first melody, and this one here, and you notice it's hitting that one too. But then you'll notice these other keys here that wasn't used yet. That one, you got this one here. So essentially created a whole other melody that we're going to be able to play with that melody at the same exact time, doing two totally different things that aren't going to fight against each other and going to work together in tandem. So that's fucking really cool. So that is going to give you an idea of how you're going to be able to break free of doing the same melody over and over and over in your song and give yourself more variety and have more to pull from. So as soon as you find vocals to go on your tune, you're going to find the notes for those vocals, and I'm going to show you how I was able to find the notes for those vocals. I mean, you can put it on a piano and just sit there and, hit the keys until, you can hear it fall in key. I got really good pitch with hearing all that type of stuff. I can do that manually, but just to show you, if you aren't as good at hearing things right off and knowing that it's in key, I'm going to show you how you're going to be able to do that. So let's go back down to the vocals. So on our vocals here, let's put Melodyne on it. Here on the Melodyne, just to figure out how I figured out the notes to the vocals to be able to create a melody to that. All right, so add a Melodyne, hit transfer, and now you hit play.
Love, love, love that I'm dreaming about. I got this love, 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 got me singing out loud. You come and take me higher. There's no denying you're the one. I got this love, yeah, love, love.
All right, I'm not gonna do them all. This is just for us to learn right now. All right, so we see everything popped in. It's showing us all the notes here for everything. So this is how I did it. I simply just went in, and you'll notice it's picking up a lot of polyphony here, and it's getting some other notes that isn't actually going to be the note that we want. So I actually put it on a piano, and I sat here and I looked at this screen right here, and I played it over and over and over, listened to the love, 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 and then looking at the notes that it's showing here and hitting the piano on the ones until I found the ones that's represented here actually on the piano that was matching up with the tone of the words that was being said. So slowly, note for note, word for word, I figured out the melody to the actual vocals, and that this is how I did it. It's a lot easier to do this in Logic Pro. It's one of my things that I miss the most about Logic, and honestly one of the only things I miss about Logic. Everything else is just better in Ableton. But in Logic Pro they have, it's called Flex Pitch, and inside of that it's pretty much this same technology from Melodyne integrated into Logic Pro called Flex Pitch, and you can put vocals pretty much on a piano roll just like how this is here, and make adjustments, and it'll show you the key of the vocals or whatever sample you're using or whatnot. But it's the same exact technology, but it's a little bit more functional and easier to use. Inside of Logic, they just made it better. But this is still a tool, really important. This is good for vocal production. I would use this first if I'm processing vocals. I would definitely put Melodyne on it first, but I would use it in standalone mode. I wouldn't use it as a VST inside of your program. I would take the vocals, bring it out, use this in standalone mode, process your vocals first, make all the adjustments. It's kind of like you could add like a auto-tune effect. You can flip your words and stuff like that with it. It gives you control over pitch drift. You can extend and hold out some of your words. You can make them shorter. You can change the key to all of them, and also you can change the amplitude on the actual words. So if they're a little bit too loud, that's really important when you record and process live vocals and stuff. Some of your words are going to be a lot louder than some of the other ones. Some of the, they could be a little bit too close to the mic sometimes and then backing away. So you're mainly going to have to go through the vocals and listen to the lower ones, bring them up, and the higher ones, bring them down until you create a consistent amplitude that goes all the way through your whole vocal process. And when you're done, you're going to create a vocal stack. You take all your different layers of your vocals, and you take your ones that go good together, and then you bounce them out together as a stack, and you label it vocal stack 1, for example, and then boom, you're going to have a really powerful vocal that sounds fucking good. And then after that, then you can add auto-tune if you want to, if you're aiming for that effect or whatnot. But that's how I would do it in that order. So that's just a good tip there. So let's go ahead and get rid of Melodyne there. We don't need that anymore, and we don't want to take any more CPU. I apologize if I lost vocal at any other point and you guys didn't know about it. I'm going to try to keep my eye on the Streamlabs over here and make sure I constantly got a good vocal feed coming through. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep everything rolling, moving forward. But yeah, you'll definitely be able to access everything here soon. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to upload the videos, and then you'll be able to figure out how I did everything, like all of it. Lots of good nuggets and stuff to learn, especially with the drums and all that, and creating really funky, rhythmic percussion and stuff like that. So good diamonds in there to learn from. So we covered the vocals, pretty much the build up, the melody that matches the vocals. So and then I pretty much just added like nothing too crazy, just a saw bass right here to go along. Just to kind of give a new feeling on the breakdown. All right, so that pretty much covers the whole breakdown. I'd say the final part of the breakdown that's really, really important is, so whenever you go to the drop, obviously you're going to come in with a new sound on the drop. It's going to be introduced that you haven't heard yet, so the drop, obviously sounds like a drop and something new came in and it's interesting and exciting when you first hear it. But if you don't introduce that sound ahead of time, it's going to sound a little too abrupt right when the drop comes in. Like, ooh, where'd this sound come from out of nowhere? It's going to sound a little off-putting. So you got to introduce that sound. So whether you start working that sound in a little earlier into the build up to the drop, you can do it that way, or as a fill right before the drop. And that's how I did this one. So the sync sound that I showed you in tutorial 2, I had a sound loaded up that didn't sound good yet because it sounded a little too busy for the intro part. But I knew I was going to end up using that sound eventually, and I ended up using it for the drop. It ended up becoming pretty much my main sound, my lead sound for the drop, along with everything else. So when you do a Compressor drop, and that's what this is, you got to pick and choose what sounds you want to be your main sound, your secondary sound, and the rest are going to be more fills. So you gotta lead with those. So since this sync lead that I got here was my main one, then I chose that to be my pre-drop sound. So you'll notice here. So that just.
I got this love.
So it introduces it perfect. Because you'll notice, like, I'm gonna just go ahead and mute it.
I got this love, yeah.
It don't have that feeling. It kind of loses. It's like, ooh, where'd this come from? So that shows you why it's so important to kind of introduce your sounds like that. That's what you said here. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm happy that you're enjoying it all so far. And yeah, there's lots of good stuff to be learned. And thanks a lot for watching my videos. So this sync lead right here, pretty much to get it to sound the way that it sounds. Let's see. I'm gonna. Actually, I think I still got. No. Let's see. I'm gonna create a new MIDI track. So I got on Rex here. Sync lead. Ringmaster, what's up? How you doing, bud? Thanks for tuning in. So on this sound right here, nothing too crazy. It's actually inside of Avenger. It's lead syncer. And all I did was add a mini chain on it with a small dip in here. But the key to making this sound the way that it sounds is having the sync reverse is chained to the sync pure right here. And I cut this off and on. So when it's on, it gives this like real crazy effect with the sync running down, and when I turn it off, it's just normal. So I'm able to create a transition with it being off and on, and that type of stuff is really important when you're doing Compressor because it keeps you from creating too many sounds. So you can take the sounds that you're already using and create more instances of that sound and create more movement and modulation. So that'll prevent there from being too much going on. So that's how I got that effect there. Let me drag in some of my MIDI here just to show you. And another project, I had to freeze some of my tracks and export it out just to kind of create more room on my CPU just to be able to even show you guys. So I had to create racks and stuff like that and bounce some of my stuff to Wave and all that just so I can even be able to play the song because it was just overloaded. Let's see. Sync lead. All right. you'll see my notes here. So to give this sound, the important thing about this sound, honestly, and I didn't mention this, is inside of the ARP right here. I got it. You'll notice it's going from one octave down to the next octave. So it's got a legato effect. So it's sliding down instead of it's sliding down. And you got to make sure you go into your pitch. And I got it on mono legato, and I got it up about 35% right there on the time. So it gives it that effect that I'm looking for, that kind of bending down into it effect. And like for Compressor, it's really, really important because you want your sounds to have a lot of movement. So that's how it's going down. So, and then also at the same time, with it doing that, showing my automation. Yeah, it's not showing my automation that before when I bounced out my MIDI. So pretty much what I did is, I'm just going to do this manually. So I pretty much went in and automated certain points of it to give it more movement. So I automated my macro right here. So the sync reverse right here. See, I just went off right there. So see how it's changing? It's going through it. It's sounding different, but then when I go all the way down with it, yep. So this is going to allow you to get a different effect in different spots. See that? That's fucking dope. So that's how I created the different instances of that same exact sound without having to create new sounds and just fucking give it overkill. So that's pretty much how I did that there. And let's see. Cut this off. Let me just delete this. And on the pre-drop right here, the same exact sound right here. All I did was just automate the actual sync knob, not the macro, the sync knob, and I automated that from about 35% down from top to bottom. So it goes and simply just took my notes and then drawed in little cuts. And that's how I got that. All right. Meows, what's up? Thank you a lot for joining me. Glad you're here, man. For you guys that are just tuning in, let's go ahead and take a listen to hear what we're actually going over here. Hey, what's up, Lindsay? Thanks for joining. So Lindsay's been here since the beginning, and she's heard the intro and all that. So it's gonna be really nice for you to hear what it's turned into. Yes, happy Sunday, everybody. Thanks a lot, man. I'm glad you guys like it. Awesome. Yeah, I think we can line you up with that. Got to talk to KJ. See, that pretty much starts breaking down, but yeah, I fucking love this song. Fucking came out so good. Thanks again to KJ for hooking me up with these awesome vocals on this and giving me a chance to turn this into a dope fucking remix. But to go over more of the drop, you'll notice I had two segments on the Complextro drop. The first one was kind of, thank you, it was kind of like really full and going crazy and doing its thing, and then you'll notice it kind of goes back to simplicity because I had to come in with the vocals, you know, and that's one thing with running vocals with Complextro. It can be a little bit much sometimes because you want your vocals to be the more dominant thing in your mix, obviously. But if, you know, you got a real heavy Complextro drop with a bunch of different Complextro bassy sounds and growls and all that going on in and out, it's going to clash with some of your words and it's just not going to sound good. So I had to mix it in a way to where I was able to come in minimally and have some of those same sounds in a minimalistic way, but still incorporate the vocals where it still sounded good. And then as soon as you thought you've heard all of it, boom, I kind of hit your ass again with a secondary Complextro drop. But this time I had to do some of the same Complextro sounds that I added in the first portion. I had to do them in a different way. You notice here. And even added a new sound right there too. So it kind of just created another element and made it sound better. As soon as you thought you've heard everything, boom, hit your ass again with something else that you haven't heard yet. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind, that you got to keep your track consistently moving forward and progressing up. And I talked before about the what I call the trifecta of the song, and what I mean by the trifecta is that point in the song where you want all of your sounds that you've already created from your intro or whatnot. You want to have a high point in that song, that point in the song where it's that epic moment where you're hearing all the sounds together at the same time, and they're all meshing and not, going and fighting against each other and sounding like shit. And if you're trying to do that and it isn't sounding good, that means something's wrong and you got to fix it. That means your melody is off. That means maybe the two melodies that you created are clashing. Maybe some of the bass sounds that you added, that might be out of key, or you got to check your samples. Something is going to be wrong, because you got to be able to have that trifecta moment in your song to where it's that high point and it rides. So this is that moment. So let me show you. So we already went over in tutorial 1 or 2 how I made the pluck sound right here. Since then, I've already bounced it to wave to create more room on my CPU. But in those tutorials, you can be able to see the notes to those. So that melody there, and then we just talked about how I made the vocal melody. So now we got this point in the song to where I'm able to run this sound right here, this lead, which is the vocal melody lead, and the pluck lead that we got here. How much time do I put in a song? It really depends. Sometimes I've made some songs within like 12, 15 hours. And it really all depends on if I already have like an idea of the direction that I want to go, and it just so happens that idea was perfect and all the melody ideas came out perfect the way that I was envisioning them in my head, and came out good. But if not, I think what takes me the longest on a song is going through and finding out what notes is going to be, and if those notes are actually like sound as good as I thought they were in my head. Sometimes I'll go through like 2 or 3 different note ideas, So that's pretty much what it boils down to. It takes me, I think this song here, I've been working on it for a little over 2 weeks now. So not really that long at all, and I put a lot of detail in it, made every single drum layer except for one from scratch. And pretty much I did everything all on my own, except for the vocals here, and it didn't really take that long at all. I've really gotten to a point where I'm finding a rhythm to it, and I think what helps is, you create your first melody on your own. So my first melody that I made was this pluck lead. That's the first one that I got there, and I didn't at that time I didn't know what vocals I was going to put on it, and then I ended up getting these vocals from KJ, and then when I added the love, 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 immediately I was like, well, I'm going to find the notes to that, the words to it, and then now I'm going to find the notes, to those words, and then just to click on it here and show you, so we got that melody right there. So that one and the one up here are 2 totally different melodies, but they go perfect with each other. So that kind of allowed me to be able to break free from that same melody and prevent my song from going stale and hearing the same melody over and over and over and over. And actually, this track came out to be 7 minutes and 51 seconds. And that's actually pretty long. I think the last one I made that was around 8 minutes long was my Icy Stars remix. And all you guys know that's a fucking awesome tune and all that. But lately, a lot of my songs have been coming out, around 6 minutes, 5.5 minutes. And this one, especially with having very short, repetitive vocals, I managed to fucking bring it out to almost 8 minutes long. And it's fucking awesome. It doesn't sound like it's the same thing happening over and over and over. And it builds up and progresses and breaks down really well. So managing to do that, make a long song without sounding so repetitive, is an achievement in itself. And this is how you're going to be able to do that type of stuff, is by creating more variation. So without these other continuous melodies, then it wouldn't have came out to such of a long track or anything, and it actually wouldn't have sounded as good. I wouldn't have had as much variety to it. So moving on, I already showed you. I showed you how I done the sync lead. So I already had bounced that, froze that, and bounced that out to wave just to create more CPU. I did a secondary one right here. I didn't talk about that one yet. So it's the same exact sound, just the automation just ran a little bit different, and my notes just hitting. I was doing just more choppier notes, doot 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 doot, and hitting in different timing spots because now I was having to think about doing it in a different way because I didn't want it to be, because then that would have really just been copy and paste over to a new spot, and that just wouldn't have sounded good. It would have been too repetitive. So I just gave you a new instance of that and a better feel for it in another spot. And I actually enjoy this segment of the drop more than I do the front segment, which they're all good, but when I listen to it, I'm like, I really enjoy this portion of it a lot more than the front portion of it. So it's crazy how just like a simple sound will have you like anticipating, waiting to hear it. So the important thing with doing Complextro, the big thing to know is that you gotta make sure that your bass is stopping. So what I mean by that, let me show you here. Let me unfreeze my sub. So let me play it for you. It's cool. Even on that, you can hear how it dips every time my kick hits. Do do do. That's really fucking cool. I love that. But you'll notice here on this, I got these gaps right here. So it stops on the snare. Boom. So on the second snare, it's going to stop. So in that gap right there, that is going to be a moment to where it's going to allow you to hear another one of your basses, and it's going to sound more dominant just in that one spot. And then all of a sudden, when the bass comes back in, like right here, it gives you more of a power note type segment. And that's really essentially the key to making good Complextro, good ins and outs. When you have lots of basses and crazy things going on and all that, if you held this bass line out, if it just held the whole time, then it wouldn't have the illusion or come across the proper way. It just wouldn't sound good. Like screw proper, it just wouldn't even sound good because you wouldn't have no power moments. It eliminates the ability to even have a power note like that because it's constantly holding the whole time. So if it's holding, you're not allowing some of your other sounds to breathe. So it kind of creates a good transition point in openings and holes for you to give other sounds a moment to shine and go like, oop, here I am, blah, blah, raw as fuck, oop, I'm gone, and here's these other sounds doing its thing. So that's essential for doing Complextro, and it's going to go stale after it rolls back around a couple times, and it's time for something new to start happening. If you simply copy and paste and bring that back to over here, it's not going to sound good. It's going to sound like I've already heard that. It's starting to sound a little too repetitive. Everything's just copy and paste. So you got to hold it back out again. Boop, hold, right? And I'm doing the same thing with my virus bass, and I talked about that on the second tutorial. So you'll notice here on the virus bass, let me go ahead and just unmute this. I did the same thing on the Complextro segment. Let me show you. Actually, no. But it sounds good. Sounds fucking dope. But that's part of the illusion there. So when the sub bass goes out, you still hear the virus bass, and that's actually a bass within itself, but it's not a sub. It's got a lot of mid to it and all that. So that actually added to the illusion. So when those two actually complement each other really well. Let me mute this, and then let's go up to the sub bass. Have that so we can run them at the same time and let you hear them together. Yeah, so that's cool. So you can hear the subs stop and the virus kind of does keep going. So that adds a little bit more of the illusion to the Complextro segment right there. And then, yep, same thing there. So really it's just the sub bass. The sub bass is really the key to having your Complextro sound the way that it should, with the ins and outs, and fill in those gaps when the sub bass goes out with other bass sounds. And let me show you. So when I came back in right here, when the sub bass extends and holds back out again for sustained notes, you'll notice right here is where I came back in with the ARP. And before, this sound was kind of clashing. It's an ARP rolling bass line, and it was kind of clashing with my Complextro sounds, the blah blah blah, kind of going in and out and doing its thing. They were kind of fighting against each other, so it didn't really make sense to have that right here at the beginning on the drop. And also having that at the beginning on the drop sounded too repetitive with us already jamming out to it in the intro. So it made more sense to drop to something totally fresh and new sounds that you hadn't heard yet for the drop, which makes it more interesting. And then when it's time, you start slowly progressing back in the sounds that you've heard before for what I always talk about, the trifecta moment. So right here is our trifecta moment. And actually we get a couple of them. We get a trifecta moment right here, and we get another one right here in this segment. So we get our rolling bass line here. We got our vocal melody right here. And I got our pluck lead melody right here. And then also at the same time, I'm introducing some of the Complextro sounds that we made along with it, but minimally. I had to choose the spots that I wanted them to be so it didn't fight against the vocals. And you notice here, pretty much all of the Complextro is muted when the vocals come back in right there. So for our trifecta moment that I call it, it's like right here. So just welcomes back the sounds that we've heard. Little instances of the Complextro sound. And the trifecta's coming up. Trifecta. Just all our sounds right there together, and they're fucking sounding good. And you'll notice too that I was able to, right here, I was able to incorporate more of the Complextro sounds with it. It started sounding better as it started building back up with the progression. So you got to be really picky about where you place your sounds and how you progress them forward and when you use them. And you'll notice I have a lot of muted clips throughout my project. You'll see them kind of everywhere. That's part of my mixing process. If something doesn't sound good in that particular spot at that moment, instead of deleting it, I'll simply just click on it, hit 0, and I'll mute it. And so it'll still be there. So then later on, when I'm in my mixing phase, when I'm trying to get the order of everything right, I'll simply just go through and start unmuting things and moving it, trying it out again, seeing how it sounds in that spot. And if it sounds good, I'll keep it there. If not, I'll just hit 0 and mute it again. So it kind of prevents you from deleting things that is going to be useful later on in your song. And to prove that, in tutorial 1, I talked about the sync lead right here, and I had it like it was doing like a oh type real basic little melody type thing on the intro, and I remember telling you guys like it sounded okay, but it doesn't really sound good on the intro. It kind of makes the intro sound a little bit too busy, but instead of deleting it, I'm just going to mute it for right now because I feel like I'm probably going to use it later on. Thank God I didn't delete it, because it ended up being the fucking main sound that carried my whole Complextro drop, and I just used it in a different way. So it's really important there. And then also keep in mind, don't forget legato on your sounds. making sure you get that ew, ew. So you're adding more movement, and that's the key to Complextro as well, as having a lot of movement in your sounds with your bass line, allowing them to breathe. Your bass line stopping on the second snare, giving it a moment to breathe. So then after that, I'll show you the other sounds here. Real basic 303 synchy sound, nothing too crazy. Just a quick little one shot in those spots there. That sound, that literally, that's all that is. Same thing. Legato. Simply just have one octave, the next octave, and I let the notes overlap each other. So when they're overlapped and you got legato on, like I showed you in Avenger already, it's going to pull down to the next note without going, it's going to ew. So that's legato there on that sample. And another one that's doing the same exact thing, but they're more highlights for each other. Right? And then the two together. Yep. So that was really good. They just more fill basses, pretty much what those are. And then right here on this growl. So pretty much you just want to make sure that you're cut off here when you, especially when you're messing around, pretty much any sound. You're gonna mess around with your cutoff right here, and this is like really not really having to focus on lots of vocal or not vocal on actual like production, like sound engineering and stuff like that. Like legit, if you're using a preset or something like that, the main thing that you want to focus on is making sure that your cutoff is sitting in the right spot, because it's going to make sure it's sitting in the right place in the mix, depending on the sound, where it is, and where it is in the spectrum. So you're just going to adjust that to your taste and make sure that it's sounding good. And I just boosted the drive up to make it a little more powerful. So pretty much I did the same exact thing. So that was the same exact sound, the King Growl preset. So pretty much all I did is I changed the rate on it. So instead of row, it's going to row, row, row. So I literally just assigned it. Hopefully it doesn't crash my audio again. But essentially all I did was I'm going to attempt to open it again without it crashing it. Let's see. Check. Sorry, still got it. All right, so pretty much all I did was just assign my LFO to the level, assign it. But it's not on this one, right? It's on the new instance. I already bounced it to wave, so you'll notice it's not assigned to it right now. But to assign it to that, you would drag your LFO to your level and your LFO to your level there. And then you're going to drag up your automation, or pretty much your amount, to that. So now it's going to be a closed filter. And then every time the sound hits, it's going to open up and go back down. And then it's going to go at the rate that you choose based off of the rate that you set right here where it says rate. So if I set that to like a 1/16 or 132, it's going to be like row, row, row. And it closes. So it gives you that in and out. And to get a little bit more technical with it, you do the same exact thing with your cutoff. And then it just adds more of the illusion. We're going to go over some of that stuff. So I'm going to show you how I did my reverse bass and stuff. So we're going to talk about some of the modulating your filters and stuff like that. So that's pretty much that. So instead of creating a whole bunch of new instances of different sounds, and there end up being too much going on, I took the same sound, changed it ever so slightly, just rated it out a little bit, and it almost came out as a new sound, but it's the same sound. So it doesn't come across as too much going on in my song. So I've made the mistake in the past, like years ago when I first started doing Complextro, I had the habit of creating lots of different bass sounds, and they're going in and out of each other, going crazy and fucking just real dirty and nasty, but it just didn't sound cohesive. And this is a way that you're going to make it more cohesive, is by taking the sounds that you're already using and creating new instances of that sounds by just making ever so slight adjustments in the modulation for those. So that's a good tip there for you. Let's move on to this one. Pretty sure this one is, King Growl as well. So it's another instance of that sound right here. Yep, so there's another one there. It's at a slower rate. So that one was at like a 1/16th rate, and I think that one was at like a 1/8 or something like that. So literally it's just rate differences on that. So nothing really crazy there. The next sound here. All right. This sound right here is actually the same exact sound that I showed you guys in the first tutorial. It was this one right here. Let me show you. So that's the same exact sound here, just doing the legato trick again. So you'll notice here I got it. One octave, the next octave, and it pulls down to the next octave without you hearing a cut. So that kind of gave that went really well. Let me play that for you. That complemented the sync lead really well. Yep, so it gave me a really good bassy low end that's doing the same exact movement as the sync lead is doing. So I got my high, mid, and low, so it fills the spectrum. It sounds really cool. Moving on, so that pretty much covers, just in case you didn't hear everything, like the three keys. The three keys is make sure your bass line stops out on the second snare. I mean, you could be more picky about it. It doesn't have to be on the second snare, but it sounds really good. So that's what I did in this one. But making sure that when your bass line stops, you got things that happen in that gap. Two, the important thing is make sure that you have legato going on to give your sounds more movement. All right. And then three is making sure that you have modulation, different instances of modulation going on, rating your sounds out at a different speed. And I'd say number four that I didn't mention, I mentioned earlier actually, would be side chaining your sounds to the ghost kick. And I talked about it before. The ghost kick that I have set to a 4/4, boom, 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 boom. I got it side chained to the ghost kick. All right. So the reason I talked about this before, the reason that I side chain it to the ghost kick, but only in the Complextro segment, is because in this segment is when I want it to have more of a pumping effect. Instead of worrying about the sound affecting my kick and getting in the way of the kick, I wasn't worried about that because I already have so much going on already that with that pumping effect, it's freeing it up. So I think it's more important for me to have that effect in this segment because it adds to the illusion of the Complextro stuff, because you want it constantly pumping but not drastically like that. So it adds to the illusion of the in and outs and the constant movement and modulation. So that's why I chose just on the Complextro segment to have my sounds side chained to the ghost kick instead of my regular kick. Okay, so that's why I done that. So let's see, my sounds, what you'll notice I got, and I just started doing this. It's just something, because I've always sidechained my sounds to just my kick, but on this particular song, since I was, I got a lot going on, there's lots of different ins and outs of sounds and all that, I noticed in a couple spots it was making my snare was kind of dipping into the mix a little bit. So I ended up sidechaining my sounds to my snare as well as my kick, and it fucking freed up my snare a lot. It made it fucking sound dominant throughout the whole track. And so now when it's even at its fullest, you don't hear the snare dipping at all. So that's really fucking cool. So that's just something that to keep in mind there. And before, like I told you, just make sure that when you do sidechain your snare to your sounds to your snare. Make sure the important thing is that your attack is really fast, and make sure your release is really fast as well. And it's very minimal, so you'll notice when it's dipping here, it's a very minimal effect, because the more drastic you go with that, it's going to end up sounding like shit. It's going to sound generic. It's going to sound really bad. So just keep that minimal, nothing too crazy. And overall, sidechaining your sounds to your kick, that's one of the most important things that you can do in the overall mix and quality of your track. Sidechaining your sounds to your kick and your snare, but the most important element that you gotta have sidechain to your kick is your sub, for sure. And your percussion sounds, they're really fucking busy. And if you don't have those sidechain to your kick, your quality is going to go down the tube really fucking fast. So you'll notice that when you start going through all your layers and you're sidechaining them all to your kick, you'll notice that your volume is going to stop peaking as easily as it was before. As you're creating more room in your mix, your quality is just going to get a lot better. And you want to go through and play your song, and you want to watch every single layer as it's playing, and you want to watch your master. You want to watch your master and make sure that it never, ever, ever goes into the red, ever. And I always make my songs with nothing on the master. No, I only have Restream on there right now, but when I don't add anything to my master up until I've finished the song. Once I've actually got everything there and I hit my last note in the song and it's done, that's when I go back through, I play the song and I listen to it with nothing on it, and I simply watch all my layers and I make sure that nothing goes into the red at all. So then when I've completed that phase and nothing's going into the red, now I feel safe to start adding things to my master. So when I start adding things to my master, a lot of people have, their taste and how they like to master their stuff and all that. But over the years, this has become my process, and this is how I do it. And I guess it's more crowd approved, because a lot of my songs have been getting played by a lot of really good artists and stuff, and they tell me how much they like my music, and this is what I've been doing to get this sound. And I guess from this point, there's no turning back. It's only up from here. So this is, first I use Master Desk. And this is you're not gonna add the same exact effects on every song. It's always gonna be different. You're gonna get a shitty quality if you're gonna simply think that you can just throw the same plugin on with the same exact knobs turned to the same exact spot with every song. It's gonna sound like doo-doo. So you gotta make sure that you listen to it really close and you give your track what it needs. Alright? So I actually gave it a little bit of trim on the dB here, just a little bit, and gave it a little bit of a volume boost there. But I think the most important knob on here that I really, really find useful is this foundation right here. The more you go up with this, it actually starts in the middle when you assign this plugin. And I've noticed that the more you go up with this foundation, the bassier it's going to get, the more you're going to get. And I already added the amount of bass that I want. I'm not trying to add any more bass to it. I want manual control over that. I don't want something to add it for me or anything like that. I want to have control over everything. So with that being said, I didn't want to add any added bass to it. So I actually did a cut right here, but it actually makes your high ends pop. That's one thing I really love about this foundation knob right here, is if you go down too far, you're going to lose a lot of essence in your track. But I've noticed that I've been getting some really good clean highs out of my track, and also maintaining the lows that I added on my own without anything else added by turning this knob right here. Around between this dot right here and that dot right there has been like my sweet spot for like the last 4 or 5 songs that I made. This has been like gold. And I don't mess around with the tone right here until I've actually went through all my other layers and gave it what it needed. Some like small EQ boost, I keep everything minimal. I don't do huge boosts on anything. And then after I've gone through everything, then that's when I start giving it a little bit of a tone touch right here. And you got to be real careful with this presence knob, it'll start to sound really wonky. You'll start to lose some of the essence in your track the higher you go with this presence. I normally don't go anywhere past where I'm at right now. And on the mono maker and the stereo enhance, I normally keep it around this area right here. I'd say anywhere from like, up to around 200, is going to be good. But I found this is like a really good spot in this region between these 2 dots or 3 dots right here. So pretty much everything in that hertz range is all going to be in mono now. And then turn this up and it's going to give you stereo widening. So it's just helping with giving that sheen and that wideness over into a final mix. And then one of the other things that I do is add a clipper. I found that this T-Rex clipper right here is fucking awesome. It adds a good color to what you add it to. It's actually pretty minimal, the effects on this right now. A lot of the effects are coming out of this plugin back here right now. But actually what I do is I'll put FabFilter on and then I set it to CD, LUFS CD. So in a nutshell, LUFS, to try to explain that to you in a way that's, because I'm not really going to be like textbook with it, but in a nutshell, the best way is perceived loudness. So what I guess back in the days in like, the 90s, I don't know if you remember, but like when commercials would play, you'd have one commercial playing and then another one would come on and it'd be like bam, blaring. You had these like real drastic volume levels, and that was annoying back in the day on TV, to the point where you used to have to keep it muted or turn down really low because this one particular commercial would come on and just fucking damn near blow your speakers. So that's where LUFS was born. And it's a way to kind of have control over perceived loudness. So when you upload a track to like iTunes, for example, I don't know if you've noticed, but iTunes adds its own color and almost like EQing and boosting or decreasing to what you add to it, and that's because of LUFS. And if you don't ride that line, if you end up going over a -9 LUFS and you end up hitting like 8.9, 8.5 LUFS, it's going to end up, whatever you upload that to, like iTunes, for example, if it's past that -9 and you try to upload that to iTunes, what's going to end up happening is they're going to end up reducing your track. They'll end up taking some of your gain down and adding some of their own color to it and fucking up the way your track sounds. And now when people preview your song, they're going to get this false perception on how you actually made your song and how you wanted it to sound, and that's fucking bad. So the way to get around that is by LUFS metering and making sure that you're riding that line as perfect as you can, not too high, not too low, because then if you're too low, they're going to add, and you don't want them to add, and you don't want them to take away either. You want them to fucking leave it alone. So you want to ride that perfectly. So pretty much what you're going to do when you finished your song and like you're done, you're going to listen to it from the beginning to end. You're going to hit this refresh button right here. And you could copy these settings here. It's on true peak limiting, and I got it set to loudness. And pretty much after you refresh, you're going to play it from the beginning of the song, and you're just going to watch it the whole time play. So pretty much what you'll do is you'll sit here and you'll just watch this number right here, and you're going to play the song from beginning to end, and you're going to watch this number the whole time. You're going to do that through the whole track, and you're going to find your high points and your low points. And if it ends up going past the -9, what you're going to do is you're going to go, I go to my clipper here, and I start bringing my gain down. And I'll do minimal adjustments. and I found the sweet spot here to 0.6, and I've already done this already. My highest LUFS, I don't know what was going on there. I think it's because where I played it, it was blah, coming off at like a real intense point, so it picked up the perceived spot at a higher spot than what it actually was. But actually, overall, from beginning to end, my LUFS comes out to a 9.1 on this. So that's perfect. So I only gave myself a zero point 0.1 bit of space right there. So that's perfect in riding it. And also, too, you'll notice here on my master, see how it's down a little bit? I got it reduced to a negative 1.0. So I know that no matter what happens, I got a 1.0 bit of headroom for my track no matter what happens. So it's just a little bit of a safety net to make sure that it's not too loud and you're not riding that mix, riding it too harshly in your mix. So it's just a way of kind of like being able to push it but not push it too much. So that's how I get my overall loudness and my overall quality and my overall wideness. If you're pushing any sounds into the yellow, you're going to want it to be the kick, the snare, or the vocals, because those are your loudest elements in your track. So if you are doing yellow, then those are the ones that it's going to be. Those are the ones that you want to push. So moving on in the Compressor segment, you notice right here I did like a reverse bass transition to help introduce the next point that's going to come on into the sound, into the song. Without that little transition, it wouldn't have sounded as good. To show you something that's really fucking cool, probably going to lose audio, I'm going to keep my eye on this. Seems like every time I create a VST, it wants to fucking pop or do something like that. Let's see. So we're going to, in my tutorial 2, one of you guys mentioned that I should create a reverse bass. And I thought that was a great idea. I was like, shit, I haven't done a reverse bass in a long fucking time. So I think that'll go good with my Compressor drop, and it'll be perfect for a little transition. So let's say, if you notice here. So that's reverse bass that I did right there. You hear that a lot in hardstyle music and all that. So the way that I made that sound, I'm going to show you. Check. All right, still got audio. Good. All right. So I'm going to show you guys how to make the sound in a way that's going to be doable for anybody that has Serum. I know I got wavetables that some of you guys don't have and all that, and I got samples that you guys don't have. So I'm going to show you how to make a reverse bass in a way that's going to be doable for anybody that owns Serum. So in a nutshell, to make a reverse bass, what we're going to do first, in oscillator A, on our analog here, we're just going to go basic CJW. That's a good one. I found a lot of them are really, really good, but I tend to like this one just to create the basic reverse bass style. Here in LFO1, it's going to pull this up, and on the other side of it, it's pull this down. And this is pretty much creating that shape of most, like pretty much all reverse basses that you hear, like that. It's like a side chain kind of sound. So that's already giving you the movement to it that we're wanting. And then let's see. Let's go ahead and switch. Yeah, that's off. That one's good. We're gonna assign our LFO to our wavetable position. And we're going to give this just a little bit of a bump there. And we're also going to assign our LFO to the level. And we're going to drag this all the way down, and we're going to turn up our level there all the way up to it. Let me do something really fast. If you hit Control-Shift-M, you can create a MIDI clip. And let me just get a good loop spot right here so we can get a good perception of how this is going to work. Actually, it's going to do that. Let's just do that. And let's drag this down, I think, 2. All right, yeah, so so I drag the notes in. Since the notes were already up in a higher octave, all I had to do was drag this down to a -2. If I wanted to, I could have left this at 0 and then just manually drag the notes down to where I wanted it, but this was just easier and faster to do. So with that, all right, so we got that. So that pretty much created the shape. So it's already already sounding like a reverse bass as it is, and we haven't even really done a whole lot. So after we got that, we're going to turn on our filter. We'll keep it on MG Low 12. See what else we're going to do. Let's go ahead and assign LFO1 to the cutoff, and you're going to click Shift, Alt, and click, and it's going to make it to where we can only automate one side instead of both sides. See what I'm saying? So we're going to drag that to about right there, and we're going to give the drive a bit of a boost right there. So you can see it opening and closing the filter there. So next we're going to assign, actually we're going to turn on our sub here, and we're going to come all the way down with the level there, and we're going to assign the LFO to our level, and we're just going to give it a bit of a small boost, nothing too crazy there. So now we can hear a good subtone coming in with it there. And that's pretty much it for the basics. Now to go a little deeper into the sound, we're going to do hyper dimension, and on the hyper, let's bring the rate down to about right there. Detune to about right there. We're going to turn on retrig. Let's see, mix. We're going to bring this down. We're going to assign our LFO to the mix, and then bring it to about right there. All right. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Hyper EQ, distortion, filter, reverb, compression. So EQ. All right. On the EQ, frequency is good. Q to about right there. Gain. All right, so we're going to assign our LFO to the gain. Again, we're going to click Shift and Alt, click, make it a one side, and we're going to drag it to about right there. All right. We're going to switch that to there. Keep that right there. See frequency, just to about right there. Gain straight up, that's good. All right. Next we got distortion. We're going to do hard clip on the distortion. Yeah, pre on this one. And then I want to drag that to about right there. And then about 282. So you'll notice it's filtering it down, and it's like, oh shit, where'd my sound go? I'm going to show you here in a minute how to break free of that. Your drive, you're going to pull that up to about right there. We're going to assign our LFO to the drive, and that's good where it sits. Kind of getting a little bit of it back, but the key here is you're going to assign your LFO1 to right here. There it is again. Boom, got it. So now pretty much it's running from the low pass to the high pass, that running out. So that's fucking cool. So we got filter coming next. Drag that up there. So we can leave that on MG Low 6. That's good. Cut off. We're going to drag that down a little bit. Res all the way down. Drive. We're actually going to assign our LFO to the drive, and we're going to leave that at about right there. Fat's good. Pan's good. And mix, we're going to bring that to about right there. All right, so we got our filter, and next we're going to do reverb, just because we want to create a little bit of space between the reverb and the compression. This is all to taste, actually, but I'm going to leave that on Hall. Let's see the size, decay, I think that's good. So yeah, let's run that to about right there. High cut to about right there. Spin all the way down. Actually, no, I'm sorry. We're going to do spin to about right there. This spin all the way down. And on the mix, we're going to have that up just a little bit. Check, check. All right, still got sound. Good. All right. All right, so that kind of sounds like shit, but it's not here when we add the compressor. All right, so I'm bringing the compressor up to right there. All right, and on the compressor, we're going to give it a little bit of threshold. On the ratio, we're going to come down with that some to about right there. Attack up just a little bit. Let's see, release is good where it is. Gain, actually, that's good where it is. And mix is good where it is. We're going to turn on multi-band. Cool thing about this, we're going to add the LFO to the high portion of the multi-band. Woo, nasty. We're going to reduce some of it here. All right. So after you, you would go in and you would copy the oscillator A and B with mods, and then it'll take everything that you've done on this first oscillator and copy everything over verbatim over to your next oscillator. So then after that, that's how you would get this sound. Check, check. All right, still got audio. All right, so that's the reverse tape. And obviously, I went up to where my kick was and made a 4/4 kick spot. Boom, 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 because everything else was breakbeat. And simply just did a little 4/4 transition right there. And also, what really helped the sound come out was holding my sub right here. Make sure my sub was constant in that spot, so it has that hum that it's supposed to have. Dope. So that's how you do that. All right, this vocal spot right here. So I feel like I needed, because the song is nearing an end, but if I came back in with the vocals that you've heard already a number of times, if you hear them the same exact way that you did before in the end, it's going to sound like I shouldn't have even come in with those again. It's like sounding way too repetitive. So I needed to add vocal effects, cuts, and something really good to kind of give you a new instance of hearing the vocals in a way that you haven't heard it before. And thank you so much for all the good feedback on the tune. It makes me feel really good. It really makes my day. So thank you so much for enjoying it. I worked really hard for you guys. I wanted to make sure that I made something that was literally something I'd make for myself without doing a tutorial, but in a tutorial, because I didn't want to come across as holding back on you guys and not trying to show you some of my secrets or anything like that. Like, I don't have anything to hide. I just want you guys to learn and get better, and that when you try to make your own breaks, when you try to make your own percussion, your own complextro, your own bassy type elements and all that, that you do it right, you know, or at least you have a good idea of how, because you saw somebody, you know, somebody has showed you how to do it in a way that works. So I'm just trying to give you guys a good blueprint to go off of. But what I did for this last little vocal spot was like literally the vocals were just like, you see how it's holding out here? That's what that was here, right before you start seeing all these cuts. So literally it was just the vocals holding out, saying what it was saying, like right here, and you hear it.
Love, 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 got me singing out loud. You come and take me.
So right there I added effects to it. I'm going to show you that how I did that too. So like for example, let me show this a better example.
Love, love, love that I'm dreaming about. I got this love, 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 got me singing out loud. You come and take me higher. There's no denying you the one.
So before I did all this, that's literally what was sitting right here. So when I dropped that right here, in order the way that I got all these effects right here.
Love, take me higher. Take me higher. This love, take me higher. Take me higher.
So after I dropped that right there, literally all I did was just grab this right here and drag it over on top of it. So then all these muted spots, all these little gaps right here, it started in between those gaps playing the regular stuff that I had dropped there from before. So it created a real cool effect of glitchy type effect. So it gave you the ins and outs.
Love, take me higher. Take me higher. This love, take me higher. Take me higher.
All right. And then after that, all I did was guitar rig. Check, check. All right, good. I added guitar rig to it. Hopefully it doesn't make me lose my audio when I open this up. Check, check, check. All right, so good. All right, so I use this a lot. This is really cool for using on fills and stuff and vocals as well. But I'll go to the effects category right here. And if you go into the break category and hit Tractor 12, it'll give you some really good presets in here for getting like really good glitchy effects and all that, at least starter points and all that. So then if you notice when I play it right here.
Love, love, love that I'm dreaming about. I got this love, 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 got me singing out loud. You come and take me, take me, take me, take me.
So literally all I did was just automate those segments right here. So going to guitar rig, and you see how it pops on, it's off. And when I want it to come on, I just come up with the automation, and that's when it starts glitching.
Take me higher, take me higher, come and take me, take me, take me, take me.
All right, so
love, 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 got me singing out loud. You come and take me, take me.
So then breaking down the song, we're going to start working down, taking some of the elements out and then filtering down. So then if you notice here on my, let's see, right here, let's go to the art base. Fire space. So pretty much just taking elements away so we can start introducing the outro and working the progression back downward the same way that we build it up in the beginning. And just want to be selective on how you do it. So then right here, you'll notice how I did to just finish everything off on the vocals. I did an auto filter automation, frequency running down to kind of give it a good outro feeling. So notice it gets lower in volume right here. and to create a good tail end on that, to give it a good outro kind of feeling to it. I added delay to it, and ping pong. I love ping pong delay. I use that a lot. Set it to the 4 there, and simply just come on with it at the right moment. So you'll see here, when on delay, right there, it's off all the way up to that point. So you see it's turned off there. So that's pretty much all I did to give that good like outro tail end type feeling on that. I even messed around a little bit too with Endless Smile. This is fun too, to kind of give like really huge tail ends too on your stuff. So like said we wanted to right there. Let's go to Endless Smile. Actually, let's just turn that on and then bring that all the way down. One thing that's been annoying about Ableton lately is your automation. See how it stays dotted like that, and it won't allow me to click on it. But if I like go over here, for example, and I hit record, right? See how now it makes it where I can automate it? That's fucking annoying. I hate that, but you know, it's a workaround. So you'll notice here, so getting more drastic with it. Actually sounds pretty good. I think I might keep that there. That sounds really good. Come down with that. And then do, I think I'm going to come back down with Endless Smile, intensity and device on. I think I'm going to go back down. Yeah, device on and intensity. Pull that down there. We're ending off with the offbeat bass the way that we started in the beginning. It just makes sense to do that. And then after the offbeat bass, we're going to slow our percussion down. We don't want to end with our percussion still being all fast and busy, because that's not the way that we started. We want to be cohesive and have patterns to everything and then match. So here we go. I switched to the 1/8 back to a slower percussion, 1/8 hats, and yep, in my zap lines. And then it actually got a mixed. That one stayed consistent the whole time at that speed. I like that. So you get a combination of the two slow speeds. So even in the intro, it starts out slow, but then when it builds up and starts getting busy and works into the 1/16s, I still got that 1/8 still riding with the 1/16s. So it doesn't sound off-putting when you switch from one to the other. You don't really hear a drastic change or anything. It sounds fluid the way that it should. So that's how you would get that. And that's pretty much it. That pretty much covers it. So from tutorial 1, 2, and this will be 3. We've covered how to make a breakbeat song from scratch, from beginning to end, making our drums, percussion lines, making our synthesizers, how to make them cohesive, how to do melodies, how to create what I call the trifecta, the high point, the big epic moment in your song. We learned how to make Compressor sound good and fit into your track and make it sound right without the bass line crashing. We learned how to open it up, legato trick, on that to give everything more movement, modulation. We learned how to do offbeat bass in the first or second tutorial. We learned how to create reverse bass, which helps for really good transition in pretty much any song that you're working on. We've learned how to do a lot of stuff, build ups, like we've done it all in here, no holding back. So I feel like if you go back and you rewatch all these videos, as soon as I get off here, I'm going to upload them to YouTube. So you'll be able to watch all of it from beginning to end and pick up all the good nuggets of information. So I think there's a lot here for everyone to learn. I appreciate you hanging out with me and watching this, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. Just to finish off, I'm just going to go ahead and play the song from beginning to end, and let's just enjoy it and jam out to it. Here we go. I appreciate you trying to help. Thank you. thank you so much for all your support. Thank you for always being there. I'm glad you're a fan and you enjoy what I do. It really means a lot. So as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go ahead and upload to YouTube. So expect all the videos to be there within the next day. It's probably going to take a while for them to upload. They're pretty long. So by tomorrow, they all should be on YouTube. There we are. So thank you guys so much for joining me and learning breakbeat music with me, and wish you guys nothing but the best. I love y'all, and God bless.